That's James's dinner for today, and some grapes and mango, and it's on top of some of that. I'm going to talk about being human, which was awesome, and these other videos. So I won't talk about being human for very long. I'm going to talk about it another day because I have a lot to talk about with that. But what I'm going to do is, since I've been writing a lot of poems, I decided that I'm going to give my whole review of this being human in the form of poetry and song. So I'm first going to sing a song that talks about this, and then I'll give a little bit of explanation for it. So we'll see how it goes. I don't really have a melody, but it should work out. It's called I Feel Lucky, and I wrote it May 3rd, 2024. I feel lucky though, I know you'd bet I'm not, but everyone's a winner with the 50-50 shot. It's a guarantee I'll be on easy street. I'm blessed to be a sinner, 50-50s can't be beat. I've got a 50-50 shot that feels like quite a lot, much more than if I had a guarantee. It's the pursuit of winning here that amps my dopamine, my dear, and makes me feel that there's no stopping me. Amped on dopamine, I mean I just can't lose. So why would I be thrifty? It's the winner's path I choose. And this winner's high, the lie I love to feel. This winning 50-50, though I know it isn't real. I've got a 50-50 shot that feels like quite a lot, much more than if I had a guarantee. It's the pursuit of winning here that amps my dopamine, my dear, and makes me feel that there's no stopping me. Okay, so I'll explain that a little bit. And if you watched this before, or I actually, this is on CD, I didn't even watch it, I listened to it. And this was the best, I think the best great chorus I've ever experienced. And it was on CD, I couldn't believe it. But anyway, so let's see here. Psychological stress is about loss of control and predictability. Winning 50% of the time makes us more excited than winning 100% of the time. The Las Vegas social engineers, they actually have social engineers in Las Vegas who they fool people who have a 0.00001% chance of winning into thinking they have a 50% chance of winning. And they do it, you know, they give you free drinks. They make you feel like you're really lucky, right? Like you're a winner. And so you think, oh yeah. And I guess feeling like you're really lucky is better than, like you're thinking, okay, well, how did they do this? Well, scientists, they were testing, I guess they tested rats and stuff, and a light would go on when they were going to get, the rats would press a pedal or do some sort of thing, so that they would get the treat. And the light would come on when the task at hand was going to start, and they were going to be able to get the treat. So they knew, oh, the light's on, I can press the pedal now, or whatever, right? And they tested their dopamine levels. So they're looking at these rats and they're like, okay, well, 50% actually makes them happier winning 50% of the time than winning 100% of the time. If they get the treat, they're not as happy as if they're pursuing. So anyway, it's the pursuit of happiness, right? That triggers the dopamine. It's not actually the happiness. It's not when you get the happiness. You'd think, okay, well, the rat would be happy when he gets the treat. No. It's when he sees that light come on, he's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get the treat, you know? And if it's 50% of the time, he's even happier than if it's 100% of the time. And they tested with 25% versus 75%, and no, it's 50%. That's when the rat is happiest, and I guess that's with people too, and whatever. So I have another one another song that I'll sing another day about that subject. But anyway, it's the pursuit of happiness. That's what it's about. So, dopamine. So, here's another one, and I actually don't really believe this, because I guess I'll talk about that later. I think this Professor Robert Sapolsky, winner of the MacArthur Genius Grant, professor of neurology and neurosurgery at Stanford University, he's amazing. He's awesome to listen to. And boy, anybody who took his classes, they got their money's worth. And if you listen to this, I got it from the library, and time well spent. So anyway, but I'll talk about this later. First, I'll read the poem. So this is based on another one of the lessons on his great course set there. This one's called The Poor's Death Tax. And I wrote this one May 1st, 2024. So this was the first one I wrote after listening to this. So I have my my biases, and I'm watching and I'm like, oh, whatever. But, or listening in this case, CD, not watching. I'm so used to watching the great course, I keep saying watching, but I didn't. This was on CD. So anyway, this is The Poor's Death Tax. Dad moved us to the city from the farm to join a world we didn't understand. He didn't know, but doubted that it'd harm us living off a wage and not the land. I now know farm poor sure beats city poor. It wasn't till my 30s that I learned that pensions aren't the same. Some folks make more depending on the salary they earn in public versus private enterprise, and quantity of years in just one spot. A poorer worker's working pension's poor. Surprise. I figure that I'll get what Dad had got, to die before he reached his pension age. Dad's death provided yet one more surprise. Death's dignity is also set by wage. My farm poor family didn't realize how costly funerals and such would be. The med schools now will take your corpse, not buy it. That's the only way death's costs are free. Us poor folks can't afford to live or die. Dad's corpse was given up to science, so my living family, who were living poor, could save the cash for living. We'll all go to science. That's the only option for the poor, and that's been true for centuries. King Henry of the 16th century devised a law so scientists could seize the executed people's corpses free. The executed folks were mainly poor, and many died for stealing food like bread. The med schools later bought cadavers for dissection, but the poor weren't paid. Instead, the corpses of the poor were stolen from their graves. The students even stole the poor. Since poor folks give to charity, they've come to think donations of their body for pursuit of science are quite virtuous. Still, wealthy med school students rob the poor. It'd still be wrong if they were paying us. 300 years ago, the poor were more aggrieved at being robbed in death than now. The poor revolted, lynching body thieves and torching med schools. Poor did not allow their own abuse. Now no one even grieves the loss of theirs and loved ones' rights to choose, to bury those they love and keep them near. The system is designed so poor folks lose in life, then death, lose all we hold most dear. The poor stay working, poor and unaware. They're taught enough to keep them working poor, so they'll pay taxes for the wealthy's care. In life we're taxed, in death we're taxed much more. So that's that one. And I'm going to put my mask on so that James can take his off, because I don't think we have the same cold, and I don't want... He got another one. And
it's not a cold, it's a secondary infection.
Yeah,
so
we'll see if I can keep from getting it, I hope.
Yeah,
but we're trying. So we'll see what happens. So, oh hey baby.
Hey, he was seeing, or
Yeah.
she was seeing. Oh,
They're very happy because I put more food out today.
Thanking you.
Yeah, they were asking for
There
it.
we
I
go.
said, okay, well, I'll do it.
Yeah.
So
they're singing like
I
this.
thought, well, they don't need me to put out food now because they can find lots, but
Yeah.
they wanted it, so I did. Anyway, awesome. And I'll talk more about it later. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Beyond the Visible, Hilma Af Klint. And I had never heard of this artist before, but they really did a good job with this video, putting it together. I haven't seen an artist video, whatever, that was done as well. I didn't care for her art that much, but I liked some of the earlier stuff more, because like where she was doing portraits and like the illustrations of a children's book, there was a picture shown, and she was awesome at doing that sort of stuff. And then she decided to go into abstract. And I guess she did this. She started out doing abstract in 1906. And she isn't recognized. She hasn't been recognized, I guess, as being the first person to do this. And in this video, they're saying it's basically because the art world's sexist. And so all of these men who were doing it 20 years later or more are getting credit for being like original thinking geniuses and coming up with this style of art, when really it was her.
Of course, it kind of begs the question. I'm missing using that, but it's a term. An idiom. Is it really worth doing? You know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, she had, I can't remember. I could have been making notes, but you can watch this. It's worth watching. So, because they put a lot of work into doing this, because there's people out there that are wanting her to get recognition, even though she's dead. She died never. I think they said she never sold the painting, but I mean, she did illustrate children's books, so she would have sold that. And she did like some illustrations for I think veterinary textbooks or something like that. So she would have made money off of that sort of thing. But I guess as art, she didn't sell the art. And she didn't get the recognition as being one of these big originators of whatever, abstract stuff. So they were, in this, they show one of her paintings next to like one of the big name players, right? Like Kandinsky or whatever.
Vasily Kandinsky, okay.
Yeah, and
it was absolutely awful.
Yeah, okay. Well, they show hers, and then they show a date, and then they show somebody else's, who's like a big name person who has gotten recognition, and the date of theirs, and hers could be 20 or 40 years earlier, and it's very similar. Why is she not getting the recognition, and this other person who did it way later does, right? So it's my favorite part of this video actually wasn't directly to do with her. It was about the Met. So the people who put together this DVD and were interviewing people, whatever. There was somebody was saying, talking about the sexism at the Met, and there was a really cute illustration that they put up with how do women have to be naked to get into the Met or something like that. And they had so I can't remember what the percentage is, like 3% of the artists featured here are female, but like 60% of the nudes are female, you know. So it's kind of funny, right? And it's so true. And they were talking about, okay, well, you'd think it would have changed over the years, but you look at who's enrolled in art schools, and most of the people are female. Yet most of the artists who are featured in galleries, it still hasn't changed. It's still
Is that true?
an old boys club.
Yeah.
And so
it's a particular type of party. Actually.
It's worth watching. This video is worth watching. Even if you aren't interested in her art or anything like that, they were talking about how many, like her nephew inherited her art collection to deal with, and one of the family members was like, I don't think he liked it very much inheriting this, because then this means all this work of having to take care of it and whatever, right? And what's he going to do with it? But because it was, I don't know how, 10,000 paintings. I might be exaggerating, but she was really productive. She was doing a lot.
That's the trouble with abstracts. You can really churn them out. Though.
Yeah, so anyway, so there was a lot, but there's some German and Swedish here, but there's subtitles, yeah. So anybody could watch it if you know how to read English. Anyway, this got second in the stack. This is a mixed bag of stuff. This is just what I was watching over the past week, and while I was listening to this, then I would put on a video, and I actually watched these art ones that I have in the stack completely without doing anything else. But when I watched stuff like this, then I was writing poetry, and I turned quite a lot of it out. But for some reason, I haven't written a poem about her or anything, but I don't know. I didn't write it. I thought for sure I'd end up with, I expected, well, what's going to inspire me? And I thought it would be watching these art things, right? But it turned out being human. That was the one that it was really interesting. But I'll talk about that later, because I won't have time to talk about much more. I have a big stack here. So Jack Ryan, this is the final season of this Tom Clancy TV series. And I don't know why it's the final season. Surely people watching this are like, wow, I love watching this. I enjoy it. I mean, it's not my favorite thing. It's not like, it's not as awesome as watching, say, Tom Cruise and Mission Impossible movies or something like that, right? But it's entertaining. It's something that I can write poetry to while it's on. And it doesn't really distract me that much from what I'm writing, but it's not bad to have on in the background either. And this final season, they really went out with a bang. I think they ended it really well, and I think anybody who watches this final season who likes the series will be like, too bad it's done, because this season was really good. I mean, there's some parts where, like, I guess a bit of a spoiler alert, when Jack Ryan is getting tortured and stuff, and you're like, would they really do? Why would they grab him and torture? Why did the other guys get away, or how, or why didn't they get killed? They were right there, and there's a lot of things like that. But if you wanted some action, adventure, and whatever, it's there. So Salvador Dali. This is one of the Culture with a capital K discs, and this one is too, this Jackson Pollock one that comes up afterwards. So I really like watching.
So how's the Culture spelled? Does it? Oh, that's just the German way of spelling.
Oh, okay.
Culture.
Okay, good to know. So anyway, I think they do a pretty good job with this. It's always a bit short. Like, this one's only 50 minutes long, whereas this one here was 97 minutes. And honestly, watching 97 minutes, there were some times when I was like, oh, it's a bit long. And so maybe it's good to have only 50 minutes, because you're watching this and you're going, well, you didn't show me all of Salvador Dali's art. Not by a long shot, and I want to see more, right? But maybe it's good, maybe it's like Jack Ryan, you're left, well, I want to see more. Maybe it's good to do that. So anyway, I really like, they show the picture of his sister in the window. They're standing in the window there. I can't remember the name of the paintings. But anyway, I love that one. That's one of my favorite Dali paintings, and it's, you know, it's not really characteristically Dali, but I love it.
It's fairly early.
Yeah.
Quite early, actually.
Well, yeah, he had a lot of different things. He didn't stick to one thing, you know, and so a lot of people, you know, they'll say, oh yeah, I love Dali or whatever, and they'll be thinking of elephants with really long legs, they're stretched out and whatever, or
a camel on fire.
Sure, whatever, you know, they'll think about a particular thing, but really there was a lot, and watching this made me realize maybe I was too judgmental of Gala when I reviewed that Daliland thing, or whatever that was called. I think that's what it was called. Because honestly, I mean, that's a movie and that's one person's opinion, a take on the relationship, and it's like, when you're outside of a relationship, you don't know what's going on. And Salvador Dali was very in love with his wife. And in this video, the narrator is talking about how Salvador Dali would sign some of his paintings Gala Dali, and so he thought of her as being a part of being the artist too, or whatever. Like, so then I thought about, well, in Daliland, she'd given away one of the paintings of her, and it was in the movie they said it like, well, a painting he'd given her that was of her, but it's maybe he didn't see it that way, and maybe she didn't see it that way. She probably sat for him for hours while he painted that, and he recognized the fact that she was a part of making that painting, and it was hers, and plus they were married, so maybe he didn't think badly of her giving it away to somebody she cared about, and maybe he didn't think badly about her caring about other people other than him. I mean, you don't know when you're not in a relationship what that relationship consists of. And anyway, one thing, like, I think it's really, Salvador Dali is most interesting, not just for his art, but that in spite of the critics and stuff not wanting him to be successful, he was successful, because people noticed that he was the best artist. And so it's funny that the critics didn't hop on board and like say, okay, well, obviously the people are liking it, so we should change our tune, you know, and maybe you know, ease off on Picasso and push more towards Dali or whatever. But it just didn't happen that way.
It was politics.
And
Picasso was a lifelong communist.
Yeah.
Salvador Dali turned on the communists.
Well, that's part of it, I think, but I think there's also the religious aspect, right?
Well, I mean, he turned to religion after World War II, apparently.
Well, especially like when his art was featuring
Jesus and
stuff. And they actually showed one of my favorite stuff generally tends to be the religious stuff. I think he did an awesome job with that stuff. Even though I like I said, I like the one with I think it's called Girl in the Window, or Girl Standing in the Window, or something like that, with the one with his sister there. I love that one. But yeah, there's
I think it was his sister. I was thinking it was Gala, but yeah.
That's what I thought. I used to think it was Gala too, but they said it was his sister, and I think it's really interesting. So it's nice to see where when artists move, like this one moved into abstract. Well, you could see she had a lot of talent. She could really draw somebody so they looked exactly like they were, and her stuff was, she could do flowers and all sorts of things, and she did a beautiful job. And then she moved towards abstract. And if you just saw the abstract stuff, you'd be like, whatever, right? But when you see where she came from, what her abilities were as an artist, then you kind of go, okay, well, she's not a hack. She's not some art hack, and that's why she does the abstract stuff. So it actually makes you want to look a little more closely into the abstract stuff to try to see, okay, well, why did she go in this direction? What made her go this way when apparently nobody else had gone this way before her?
Well, I mean, most of them artists were doing abstracts for centuries.
Okay. That's a good point. So anyway, when you look at Salvador Dali's earlier stuff, and then you look at where he's going, and honestly, I think anybody who looked at it honestly would say he kept progressing. He kept challenging himself and learning, and so as an artist, he was a lifelong learner. And I don't know. I don't know about the people who did abstract. I don't know.
She found. I mean, it's not, from the look of it, it's not as bad as Piet Mondrian. Mondrian did different things at the beginning too.